Hi, I'm Liz Gortman from Chickasaw County, and my presentation is on genealogy, or more formally known as ancestry. Ancestry is not just a day adventure, but a lifetime journey. And today, I get the pleasure of showing you the steps in my journey. Now, before we had all this technology that makes it easier for me, the computers and just going to a public library, they had nuns that would go around and make actual family trees. Now, my grandma Gorman actually brought this over and showed me when I started going through all my history, and there are 823 names on this family tree together. And I think this is just really cool because it took them 2 years to write down all these names and to draw this tree, and it was only 2 nuns who did it. I think that personally this wasn't a very good way to do it, just because they would go around and they would talk to the individual family members, and each individual family member has a separate opinion, and so there are some errors that are here. And when we went through it, there are a few examples like marriages that they told them they were married to the wrong person, and so this isn't 100% reliable. And so I personally think now that we have technology that this is more reliable than our family tree here. My first step started when I saw Ancestry.com, a commercial, and I thought, hey, this is kind of cool, maybe I should go try that. So I got online and I typed it in, and I started with my grandpa Larson, and I typed in all his information, and when we got to the records, I personally didn't believe it was going to work, but it came up with all the records. It came up with my grandma's name as his spouse, my aunts and uncles and my mother as his children, and then it listed some of us grandchildren, and I was like, this is really cool. I gotta go beg Mom to see if I can get the membership for this. And she told me we needed to wait for my grandma just so we can get started with it, and it kind of dwindled on for a couple of years. We were watching television one day and we saw a commercial for Who Do You Think You Are? And that is when famous stars go and they use these ancestry tools such as this to go and search their history of family members that they didn't know. So my grandma, my mother, and I were sitting in the living room one day watching an episode, and it just really sparked my excitement again, so I sat down with Grandma, and between the two of us, we finally convinced Mom to let us get the international membership, and that lets us basically get all the information records from overseas. The next step I took was we sat down the next day and we started going through my Grandpa Gorman's information and her information. And we actually found out quite a bit. We found out that we could find the boat that some of our ancestors in. We could see how many people were on them, what the name of it was, where it deported, where it came to in America, the dates it left, the dates it arrived, how many people had died on the boat on the passage. And that was personally really cool to me because it's kind of taking a piece of what happened in the past with my ancestors and showing it to me. I know with the internet here, it was a little rough on my journey because we changed names as we come over here. Like with my Gormans, it could be originally O Gorman, and when they came here, they would get rid of the O and just be Gormans. So that's a little hard to go through the records because like Ellis Island, for example, too, if your name sounded a certain way, they would write it how they thought it was, or if it sounded too Jewish, they would change it completely. So records are a little hard to go through. After doing both sides of my Larson and Gorman side and kind of hitting a rock for all of them, I started to kind of want to escalate more on my Gorman side. So I went to the Chickasaw County Library and started looking through the records there. And I found it really cool because we have my great-great-grandpa Patrick Gorman. There's a little bit of different kind of stories that go around with him, but all of them end up him in the military. But on here I could find no military records. I couldn't find if he served in any wars. So I thought maybe going to the library would help me. I actually found the 1930 census with his name in them, and it had him as an unmarried man, which strikes me odd too, because what I had heard is he had came over to Iowa because he had gotten married, but he married after he settled here in Iowa. I also found a death index record for him, and I sat down and started to flip through that, and I noticed on his headstone that they put markings on there whether or not they served in war, if they were veterans, and there wasn't anything on that like there. So it's kind of hard to believe my family just because there is no records. And the only explanation I have for that is maybe they were lost or they could have been destroyed, which is another big part of ancestry that can kind of be a downfall. After I had researched some in the library, I came back home and my grandma had come over with a lot of different books and artifacts that she had it stored away. And we actually got a couple of these books, and these are really handy because I could go through them, and like here, it has birth dates, death dates, where they were living at the time, and their families. And this book is also really cool because it shows marriage and family portraits, so we knew at the time of date who was living with who and when. Another fun artifact is she brought over her parents' wedding photo, and I thought this was really cool just because you can kind of step back in time and see what they look like, because personally I never met. Another thing we had, and this is really sentimental to us, because my great-great-grandma Della Booth painted these, and unfortunately on the trip down here one of them did break, so we'll have to try to super glue it when we get home. But I had forgotten about these personally until I started going on this, and we actually did find out that this is my great-great-grandma Della Booth, who had painted these, and you probably all can't see it, but she did sign it gold right here at the bottom. And that's just really cool to me because I can have it in my hands knowing that at one point in time she was holding it and she was doing the painting. Now, I brought up the website. This is Ancestry.com, and I want to show you a little bit of what I have to do and a little bit of the process that I go through with finding different things on the internet. Now, this is my grandma Larson here. This is her Moffat side. And what we do is I'm going to go ahead and start with Pryor Davis here. And this is really fun because as I'm going through these hints, it says he has 11 ancestry hints, and these are the little leaves. If you've ever seen the commercial, they'll say, oh, I saw this leaf and I clicked on it and I found this and this and this. Skeptical me, I didn't believe it, but this is what it is. And you just click on the leaf here, possibly. Okay. And it'll come up with, if somebody have him already in a family tree or somebody with a close name, it'll come up with that. It has the federal census. It has grave index records, and another thing with this is it's a little hard to get through these just because it'll come up with not just specifics, but if his name is close to somebody else, it'll come. So you kind of have to shift through what is correct and what's not correct information. And so I can come here and I can look at, like this one right here, I can look at the 1910 United States Federal Census, and I can say, okay, let me look at this link, I'm going to review it, and it'll come up with information. And so if there's things that I don't have already, like his residency place in 1910, I can add that to his profile, and I can be like, and I can come down here and look at his parents, and okay, they match up, so I know this is him. I can come down and look at his spouse and children, and I can say, okay, yep, they look correct. I can go ahead and save this to my family tree. So once I get that done, I can come back to his, and I can click on his name, and this is his profile, and it'll show me his birth, where he was resident at 1990, the next 10 years, and so on. I can go and look at that. I can look over here. I can see his parents, and I can come down here and I can see his spouse and his children. I can come over here and I can look at the facts that I have tagged to them and where they came from. And then as I escalate, if I were to continue with this person, he would develop his own family tree. And I can come to his right here. And it'll go off my grandma's, and you can see he started with his own family tree. So this is a fun thing with this website. You don't only make a family tree for yourself, but you can make a family tree within a family tree. And it's really fun to do, and I know I have bonded with my family a lot over this, looking into the history and finding out all these different facts about my personal family. I hope you'll get something from this and you'll think, hey, this is cool, and start your own journey, because it is a lot of fun. I thought it would be boring at first, and I was genuinely surprised. Thank you for listening. Are there any questions?
Yes, you talked about this being a membership. What's the cost to do this thing? Is it like an annual membership, or is it a one-time fee, or how does that work?
This is an annual membership, and I know for internationals it's about $70, so it's a little pricey, but you do get records from, let's say I have somebody from Ireland. I can get those records and have them right here on this computer. So basically you have access to records all over the world. And if you want, the fun thing about this too, if you want to cancel your membership, you won't lose any of that information. So let's say we decide to cancel it, all that information that I already have, I can keep and I can still look at.
Were you surprised by some of your ancestors?
I was really surprised, honestly. Like, I talked about my grandpa Gorman. I had just taken it from word to mouth, but not being able to find, like, I haven't no records of him. I thought it was surprising to me. And it's also really surprising how far back I have been able to get. So, yeah, I've been quite surprised by doing this and sitting down and be able to figure all this out.
You talked about a membership. Is there any other resources that we might use to teach us how to do this?
There are different ancestry websites. This obviously isn't the only one out there. But I actually found personally, I liked almost the library even better than my internet, sitting down with the books, and I thought that was really fun. But this website actually, it teaches you step by step how to go. So it does have like a tutorial on how to do it. So that's another thing I really liked about Ancestry. Are there any more questions? Then this concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening.